Welcome, everybody. Just a quick heads up that this was pre-recorded, but I will answer any and all questions in the chat or comments below. But let's get right into the lesson. And today, what's today's date? Today is April, what's today? April, I should have thought of it. April 9th, 2020. And the coronavirus is spreading as it has been for weeks now. And so the situation sucks. There's a lot of things out of your control. You turn on the news and there's just so many things going on right now that you are not in control of, but you are in control of your mind. And let's use that big brain of yours. Let's put our minds together and do something productive. Today, we're not going to learn about the TOEFL. Actually, we're going to learn about pronunciation and how to just speak in a more intelligible way in English. And I'll explain kind of what that stuff means as we go forward. But before we do, let me know about you. What's your name? Where are you located right now? And what are you hoping to learn today? Let me know in the chat section below, but let's get into the lesson. So let me share my screen and let me start this presentation here. All right, make this a little bit bigger. And, okay, so that's my face. Okay. Weird to see my face. So about me really quickly, I studied ESL, have 10 years of teaching experiences with ESL, and I teach TOEFL as well. And in my free time, I like to write articles and make videos about TOEFL and about English. Not a very exciting hobby, but that's what I do. So today, we're going to talk about how to improve your pronunciation, and these are our goals together. So you're going to identify the 6 steps that you need to take in order to improve your pronunciation. You're going to discover the difference between the way you speak and the way North Americans speak, and how our mouths are a little bit different, the way our tongue and cheeks and lips are positioned differently. And you're going to know how to use 2 free resources to help you practice speaking, even if you don't have somebody at home to practice with. All right, so let's do that together right now. Oh, and before I do, I have to promote my site, tstprep.com. We help you improve your accent as quickly and easily as possible. And you can get an accent evaluation with John here. That handsome man is not me. And he has a lot of experience teaching ESL students and helping them kind of figure out what parts of their speech they need to improve. And so let's get into the lesson. What are some words and sounds you still struggle to pronounce well? So think about that a minute. What are some sounds that you still need, you feel like you still need to work on a little bit? This is mostly for intermediate and advanced English language learners. So let me know in the chat or comments what you think. In my experience, there's some sounds that are pretty common that are hard for a lot of people. R and L. I live in Japan, and for a lot of Asian speakers, the R and L sound is difficult. R is really just difficult in general, the sound, because it's really weird. Your tongue kind of gets fat and bunches up in the back of your mouth, and it's just a weird sound and kind of hard to make. Same thing with TH, the th sound. It's not a very common sound in other languages. So it's hard to make that sound. Now, most of the time, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but most of the time, you could practice trying to say this all day, but really what you need to know is how your mouth should feel when you're making these sounds. So it's a little different, but let me step back and I'll talk a little more. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do to improve your pronunciation, if you need to improve your speaking, is to identify your weaknesses. Now, also before I start, let me say something about pronunciation that I speak with a North American accent. I'm from New York originally. And there's nothing wrong with having an accent. There's no accent that is right or wrong. Everybody has an accent. I have an accent. It's perfectly natural. The only time where it becomes a problem is when people don't understand what you're saying. It's called intelligibility, is when what you're saying is not intelligible. It's hard to understand. So I don't want you to think that you need to speak like me or anything like that. I'm just going to show you, if you feel like people don't understand what you're saying sometimes and you want to communicate clearer, we're going to talk. This will help you. All right. So the first thing you want to do is identify your weaknesses, quote unquote, sounds that you might have some trouble pronouncing. There is a link in the description below to this nationality and pronunciation guide. It gives you some nationalities and what sounds are probably hard for you if you're from a certain country or if your first language is French, Japanese, Chinese, Italian, whatever it is. So check out that guide. I don't have time to go through all of them, but you can find out your weaknesses there. Okay. The second thing you should do is you should find the correct mouth placement. So how your mouth should feel. So when you make the sound, that R sound, your lips should be tight, a little bit open. The tongue in the back should get a little fat, and sound comes out. That's the correct mouth placement for the R sound, right? This is some ways that you can improve your pronunciation of American English. So if you need to find out how a specific sound sounds, I'll give you a link to Rachel's English. You can just type in how to make the R sound, and there'll be a video that'll help you know how to put your tongue and lips in the right place. But this is some general information for how to sound more like North Americans, how North Americans like myself usually speak compared to other countries. So in general, the North American accent is pretty lazy. Okay, so we have a lazy tongue. Our tongue kind of like is just slowly moving around our mouth. It's not really very tight and strong. For example, it's not very tight, I would say. For example, the British middle T and the American middle T. So when we pronounce middle T's, Americans, it sounds like a D, a duh sound. That's because we don't flick our tongue when we do it. I'll do like a flick, flick, flick. We don't flick our tongue. So I'll give you an example. Betty bought a bit of better butter. It's kind of a tongue twister. So in British English, my tongue is flicked. Betty bought a bit of better butter. Betty bought a bit of better butter. But American English, the tongue is a little bit lazier. So we don't flick the tongue. Instead, we kind of just roll it. Betty bought a bit of better butter. 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 So the American tongue is a little bit lazier. It's not as light and fast, if I say it like that. So that's why a lot of sounds come together and it kind of gets a little mumbled when we're speaking fast because our tongue is pretty lazy. Another thing is that you want to place your voice in your chest. You want to have it kind of low here. A lot of languages actually have it more in the face, your placement, and in the nose. By the way, I'm going to say these things. It's going to be hard to do tomorrow or today, but just things to keep in mind if you're having a lot of trouble with American pronunciation. The placement is more in your chest. So, my wife is Japanese, so speaking Japanese, usually my voice kind of changes where I place it. I try to place it higher in my nose and my mouth because that's more like a Japanese style. So, namae wa Joshua desu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. So my voice kind of comes up here. I don't say yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. That would be more in my chest. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Most of the sound is coming from my lips and my nose. So most of the time, you need to move the placement of your voice down into your chest for a more American style pronunciation, if that's what you want. Your lips are relaxed, your lips are down and relaxed, they're not so tight, they're more relaxed, and you want to relax your jaw. So everything is just relaxed. The tongue is relaxed, the jaw is relaxed, your voice is in your chest, everything is blah, blah. American English is very like American English. It just kind of spills out of you, very lazily. That's why we have a lot of words that come together. Maybe you have a teacher that says, don't say, I am going to go to the movies, say, I'm going to go to the movies. So we tend to speak faster and bring words together. And a lot of that comes from this laziness, relaxed jaw, lips down, tongue is very lazy. Okay, so that's in general. If you're trying to figure out how to make some sounds in English, you might have to change the way, the placement, where you're speaking. Is it coming from your nose or is it coming from your chest? So these are things about your pronunciation that you are more physical. These are physical things. They're not really about the sounds. They're more just like where things are happening in your body. This is a picture from a Japanese textbook. It's one of my favorite pictures. It's basically an American, big mouth, open, hey, kind of frightening head, looking. So our mouths are more open when we speak. So that's another thing, that your mouth might be a little bit tighter. That's why our lips are open a little bit more. We tend to speak with more open mouth than other cultures. This isn't true for every culture. You might have a culture where people speak with their mouths open a lot. It just, when I'm comparing Japanese culture to American culture, a lot of Asian cultures, the pronunciation's up in the face, lips are really tight. You want to bring everything down, more relaxed. Okay. And again, if you want to learn more about mouth placement, Rachel's English is a great place. She has videos on just about every single sound. If there's one sound that you need help with, check it out. Okay. So the next step, so far you've identified your weaknesses, you learn about mouth placement, where things should be when you're speaking. The next thing you should do is try to find some minimal pairs and tongue twisters. So you want to start focusing on these sounds to build them, okay? And you want to build them over time. It'll take some time. It's a hard thing to do because you've been making the same sounds the same way for so long, you kind of have some habits. So it's hard to break that. It'll take some practice. Just to give you a couple of examples of minimal pairs, if you're trying to practice TH, you might think, sink, smith, smidge, so the TH in different places. Or thank the other three brothers of their father's, mother's, brother's side. The thing with tongue twisters, actually, is that you don't need to say them quickly. A lot of people try to say them quickly. The goal for our tongue twisters here is actually to practice your pronunciation of the sound. So I don't care about you doing tongue twisters really fast. Instead, you should go slow and controlled. Thank the other three brothers of their father's, mother's, brother's side. So actually try to make the sounds with your mouth. Have your mouth really open and exaggerated. So when you're practicing tongue twisters, it's actually, it's more for like native speakers if they're trying to go fast. If you're trying to work on your pronunciation and say the sound correctly, you should be going slow. And again, in that nationality and pronunciation guide, there's tongue twisters for almost every sound and minimal pairs for almost every sound as well. So check that out. Another thing that you can do is look for example sentences with the sound or words. So find a word that you have trouble with. For example, let's say there's a word, the example I gave here is think and Smith. Try to find sentences with Think and Smith in Youglish or through Google News. Youglish is a great site. Let's see if I talk about it here. Yeah, so if, let's say, for example, you have trouble with the word battery, okay? You have trouble pronouncing battery. You say battery, battery, but it's battery, battery, battery. So you have trouble saying battery. And you could just type that in, and you could pick the pronunciation if you want, US pronunciation, UK or Australian. And then you'll find videos with somebody saying this word in context. It's really an amazing tool. So here's an example from battery, and it'll go right to the minute that the person says the word. And you can do it normal speed or slow speed. So you want to listen and then repeat. Listen and repeat. Okay? Now, you might be thinking this is great so far, but how do I know if I'm pronouncing it well or not? Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Okay, so far, let me just go through the step-by-step so far. You've identified your weaknesses. You thought about the sounds that you want to work on. By the way, that's really important because anybody can say, I want to speak better English. Very few people say, I want to pronounce TH well, and I want to pronounce the word think better. I have trouble saying the word think. That's what you want to do. Be super specific about your weaknesses. First, find the sound, and then find words that you want to be able to say. You learn the correct mouth placement, where things should be, your tongue, your cheeks, your jaw, lips, chest, so on. You find minimal pairs, so you find some practice examples and some tongue twisters that you say slowly because you're trying to say everything correctly. You look for examples on Youglish. So you go to youglish.com and you type in some words that you want to practice, and then you listen to them and try to repeat. Record your voice. I'll get to that in a minute. Now you want to memorize your lines. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, I want you to just find a couple of sentences, a couple of examples, and try to memorize them. Now, this comes from actors. So actors have to learn accents, and they have to do different accents. And so one way for them to do accents is to learn the lines of a movie or a TV show, and they have to do all the lines of that movie or TV show. So they don't have to do a perfect pronunciation all the time. They don't have to do a perfect accent all the time for every single word. They just have to remember their lines. So you want to use that strategy. Only practice certain lines with the words or phrases that you're trying to get better at. By focusing on just certain lines, it'll help you for other phrases, other examples as well. So just focus on certain lines to help you improve your pronunciation. Don't try to just, oh, I said this word wrong today. I said this word wrong today. and just keep changing all the time. No, do the same thing again and again. Memorize your lines, nail your lines. Try to say this sentence perfectly. Or Margaret Byard Smith, I think her papers are here. Try to say that perfectly. Listen to that sentence, repeat it again and again and again and again until it's like in your muscles and it just comes out naturally. You want to try to get this into your subconscious so it kind of comes out without you thinking. Okay, that's it. And the last one is analyze through voice typing. So how do you know if you're doing this right or not? So the thing with English, you want a partner, you want somebody to give you feedback, you want somebody to tell you what you're doing well and what you're not doing well. You can use voice typing. For example, you probably talk to your phone, Siri. If Siri understands you, you're good. Oh, she's talking to me, right? She just came on. She heard her voice. So if that person understands you, then you said it okay. If not, then you have some trouble. So what I like to use instead of that person, I'm not going to say the name because I don't want my phone to turn on, is voice typing through Google Docs. Basically, you type a sentence onto Google Docs. You have a voice typing option. You can just find voice typing up in the top at navigation, and then you speak, and then it'll type what you're saying. See if it types what you're saying. If not, then you have some problems with this word or sound, and you have to try to do it again and again. Okay, so that's one way to practice at home. Use voice typing software to help analyze your speaking. And yeah, that's the Google Docs one that I just mentioned there as well. Okay, so you've identified your weaknesses. You learn correct mouth placement, find minimal pairs and tongue twisters, example sentence, memorize lines, and analyze through voice typing. Lots of stuff. So hopefully you feel like you've learned your goals. You've identified the six steps, discovered the difference between the way you speak in a North American, and you have some free resources, Google Docs and Youglish. That's about it for the most part. And if you want a better accent in 60 days, check out our Accent Builder program, and you can work with a teacher to help build your skills through specific practice that is designed to help work on your weaknesses. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that it was a nice little distraction and that you learned something. I'm looking forward to the next video, guys. And let me know how you guys, how you like this, these lessons, and if we could do something better, let me know. Okay, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, take care.